Good morning and welcome to Rising. Happy Monday. It is another week in Washington, D.C. politics and news, which we're about to discuss. Lindsay, how was your weekend? You went back home and back here again. You're going back and forth so
I live
much.
in Denver. I still kind of live in Denver. But yeah, I wore my green for you so we can bring in some luck. I'm lucky charm over here.
Down the yellow brick road to the Emerald City we go.
So tell us what's on your radar today.
All right, let's get to it. Did Democratic Senator Cory Booker do a Nazi salute while thanking Democratic supporters in California over the weekend? Let me be crystal clear. In my view, he absolutely did not do such a thing. But anyone who is convinced that Elon Musk's hand gesture was a Nazi salute should be applying a similar standard here. Don't hold your breath, of course, for mainstream media to give Booker the same treatment as Musk, however. That's because mainstream media is hopelessly biased and will excuse the actions taken by Booker when they would have crucified a Republican for doing the same thing. I mean, you remember, right? All the outrage over Elon Musk supposedly doing a Nazi salute during Inauguration Day? I sure do. Practically every mainstream liberal commentator, as well as many prominent Democrats, threw absolute fits about this, asserting it was obvious, self-apparent, that Elon Musk's "my heart goes out to you" gesture was secret Nazi code. We endured an entire news cycle about what it means that incoming President Trump's most significant financial backer and advisor is doing the Heil Hitler salute before throngs of supporters. Now, what I said at the time was that this was patently ridiculous. Elon Musk had not done Nazi salute. He made an awkward, jerking display of affection for Trump and for Trump fans. That's what he did. Watch.
Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
I can kind of see how maybe if stripped of all context, you could say it sort of resembled this well-known fascist arm gesture, but by loudly declaring "my heart goes out to you," I think Musk clearly signaled what he was intending. It was a display of warmth and love for all of Trump's supporters who helped make his election possible. And that's how the Anti-Defamation League saw it. They put out a statement saying it was not a Nazi salute. But it's not how mainstream media saw it. They asserted he had performed a Nazi salute. Look at the New York Times, suggesting there was little doubt about its meaning. And of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez slammed Musk, accusing him of performing a Nazi gesture. And on and on and on it went. This was wall-to-wall coverage for days. Now, for comparison, here is what Cory Booker did. The clip is real quick, excuse me. So watch it. Here we go. We're going to play it.
Thank you. Thank you, California.
And you know what? We're actually going to play them side by side. So here's Cory Booker and Elon Musk. Same kind of thing. Looks very similar to me. Again, just to be clear, I do not think Cory Booker was doing a Nazi salute. I don't think Elon Musk is doing a Nazi salute. I think this whole thing is very silly. I think they're just showing appreciation to their supporters. I also think it's weird and frankly conspiratorial to think that there are these secret Nazis in our government just biding their time until they can flash pro-Hitler hand gestures. However, I'm sadly not at all surprised that exactly 0 mainstream publications have accused Booker of being a Nazi for doing the exact same thing as Elon Musk.
Well, what I saw is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, people specifically said that Musk was doing a Nazi salute, not these publications. So I know there's always an attack on the media, but they did cover it and say, what was Elon Musk doing? I saw many outlets today covering what Musk had to say about Cory Booker. So I think it's the same type of coverage. I believe in consistency across the political spectrum. So we should have outrage or not for both or none. I also do not think either one of them were a Nazi salute. I do think that, when we're comparing the gestures back and forth, then we're losing the real conversation, which is that we're cheapening the history of what's happened in the Holocaust by using these terms every single day. I mean, Gestapo, fascism, Nazi, you're just like Hitler. Like, how many times have we heard this in the last, let's say, 5 years alone? And I think that there are people, you have to remember, there are people that are still alive that have, dire circumstances and consequences that happen to their life because of the Holocaust and people who are still suffering with what, it remains of their experience from that. And I think every time we talk about it in the news in this way, and not us, I'm saying like when we're covering with such outrage, when Elon Musk does this, when Alexandria AOC does this, it's just like, do you really think that there is some hidden agenda to actually, be just like Hitler in the United States? Because I really believe there's a smarter conversation we can have about which policies you don't like without going to the most extreme degree and kind of just not worrying about who you're offending throughout that whole process.
Oh, exactly. I think it's so tiring to people that it's Nazi this, fascist this, Hitler this, and on and on and on, and it just cheapens our discourse. I think the tone of the media coverage has been a little bit different in the two instances, and I'm always paying close attention to this because I see it all the time. It's almost a kind of cryptography. We had this with the OK hand sign too. Do you remember this?
Yes.
People saying that that's a Nazi gesture. I'm like, okay, maybe like 2 people on Earth mean it that way.
But the rest of
the
world.
vast majority of people have no idea what you're talking about. So then you'll put yourself in this very unhealthy for you headspace where then you're projecting onto people ill intent when they have no idea what you're talking about. And you can often, and I think this has to do with to some extent disguising hateful language or inappropriate language that we Lord Voldemort it, you know what I mean? We make it he who must not be named, and we make it sound scarier than it actually is. I think that's true of some of this iconography stuff. Like, and there's the secret tattoos. It's a tattoo of a cross. It's actually a Nazi tattoo. No, it's probably just a cross tattoo. There's a lot of that makes us mistrustful that the media totally plays into. But, to be clear, I think it's a form of waving to your supporters. It's not Hitler doesn't own like raising your hand and pointing it at people. That'd be absurd, right? And why would we want to concede that ground? Why would we want to say, agree that everyone who is doing that is secretly a Nazi? I want to resist that. It's bad.
And I think we all know that the Holocaust is not a metaphor for any political point. But what happens on both Democratic and Republican side is that what exists on social media is echo chambers chambers of people that want to hear and want to prove their points. So if you do look for any signs of Elon Musk being a Nazi, or if you look for Cory Booker being a Nazi, you can find that to be proven falsely on Twitter or X or Instagram. You can find somebody to echo your thoughts because it's just a bunch of people aggregating information that want to hear from each other.
Well, and all government and any restriction on my rights whatsoever is fascism. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Both sides can be proven. Exactly. Both sides can find what they're looking for in there. And I think I think part of the problem is where we are today when we talk about politics. We go to certain sources to kind of hear what we're looking to find and search certain things when we're looking to find that information. And so part of what I'm excited about is that there are so many voices to the table, but at the same time when those voices are not vetted, which is why I appreciate real journalism, then we have a lot of conversations in the ethos about people doing like egregious things, and really they're just waving to people that came out in thousands in droves to support them.
Yeah, this is a popular idea that there's a lot of ideological self-reinforcement that is made possible by social media. That
you agree?
I don't know that I actually do agree, because there's a lot of it's more chaotic and ungate-kept on social media than it was before. I think maybe there was a less wide range of opinions previously that you were allowed to even have, and so what looks like ideological self-reinforcement now is actually a greater diversity of thought that you didn't used to give, because it was it was pretend disagreement, the kind that you had on cable news on TV or in newspapers, where it's mostly people, affluent people who all kind of agree, pretending.
Now it's just unhinged, anything goes.
Well, now it's
type
unhinged
of disagreement.
and anything goes. Yes.
Okay.
And some of that is bad. And some of that is, I don't know, sometimes the unhinged crazy people are right about something, so they have a point or they should be listened to.
And sometimes they're conspiracy theorists talking about
sometimes. But sometimes
politicians being Nazis.
Sometimes the mainstream people are conspiracy theorists too.
Next up, the FBI is investigating what they're calling a terror attack on a group of pro-Israel demonstrators. Stay with us.
tragic news. The FBI is saying a man committed a targeted terror attack in Boulder, Colorado on a group of pro-Israel demonstrators.
Law enforcement and witnesses say that the suspect, Mohammed Sabri Solomon, had a makeshift flamethrower, threw Molotov cocktails into the crowd, and yelled, "Free Palestine." 8 people were injured, per the FBI.
The victims were part of a group called Run for Their Lives, and they were demonstrating to raise awareness of the hostages still being held in Gaza. The White House is saying that Solomon is an illegal immigrant who, in fact, overstayed his visa. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino tweeted, "This act of terror is being investigated as an act of ideologically motivated violence based on the early information, the evidence, and witness accounts. We will speak clearly on these incidents when the facts warrant it."
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a statement today saying, quote, "This attack was aimed against peaceful people who wished to express their solidarity with the hostages held by Hamas simply because they were Jews."
Here's a witness, a tourist named Alex Asante, telling the AP what he saw.
A fire, I saw people falling and screaming and crying and tripping, and I saw the attacker have a Molotov. He had 3 Molotov cocktails. One of them he threw inside of a group, and one lady lit on fire from head to toe. And then the other 4 people were also injured and in a fire, but not as bad as the first one.
Just absolutely awful, horrifying. This man, Mohammed Solomon, using improvised incendiary devices to set people on fire. Just absolutely awful. Thinking about and praying for the victims. It is being pointed out by law enforcement and others that allegedly his status is effectively an illegal immigrant, that he overstayed a series of work visas and has no business being in this country in the first place. I actually saw this being discussed on News Nation this morning. Fingers already being pointed at the Biden administration for not moving to deport him more swiftly, and this harm would not have happened if he had been out of the country. He has no business being here. We don't want dangerous, fire-wielding, crazy people who, and again, it is not just a crazy, random sort of thing. It is clearly motivated by an anti-Israel or anti-Jewish animus. Absolutely awful.
Yeah, it's appalling and tragic, and obviously there's so many people that say and are agreeing that their hearts go out to the families and everyone affected in the situation. You know that I live in Denver, which is about 40 minutes from Boulder. And so Pearl Street is somewhere, especially around now, where people go to because the weather is finally clearing up. You know, we have a cold, really cold winter in Denver. And so it's usually crowded, lots of people out there. This group of protesters has actually been, not even protesters, this peaceful gatherers that walk every week, have been doing this for about 2 years, every week, just to raise awareness, like not to forget about hostages in Gaza, and just pointing out that Hamas still has hostages, which they're allowed to do. I just think it's really important, if we look at what just happened on May 23rd right here in Washington, D.C., that we remember that we have to try to do our best to bring the temperature down. And while this is an illegal migrant who was here and there's conversation around that, for sure, we can explore that topic in full, and I think that that's something that we need to look at. And everyone agrees that people who are committing criminal acts should not be here, especially when it comes to immigration. But I hate to diminish the real tragedy by emphasizing or by ignoring the pain and the suffering that these victims and their families are feeling, and trying to find this as a political moment. Because at the end of the day, President Trump has been in office for about 6 months now. And so he had the opportunity to deport people like this who've overstayed their visa in whatever fashion he sees fit, and he's been doing so. And so I think pointing it at Biden as the exact person that may or may not have gotten this specific immigrant out is not the right conversation to be having at this moment, when people just lost or are just suffering, not even lost, but just are suffering in this moment. I think it's a time to really show the world how to come together and show people that violence is not the solution, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum. No one condones this, and no one thinks this or the DC Act was appropriate. Now is the time for solidarity.
Yeah, I'm all for, taking a minute and gathering the facts and seeing what led to this and what actions should have been taken, and not, rushing to spouting off about it without knowing everything. I think that's all fine. but I think the information we're already getting strongly suggests that action should have been taken to remove this person from the country. This is going to be labeled correctly, I would say, in this case, although I don't love terrorism as a label in general. I think is often overly broadly applied, and well, what is it? What even is terrorism? What constitutes a motive of general hatred or craziness, or is it political ideology? But in some cases it's clearer than others. It was very clear, the attack that took place here in D.C. that took the life of those two beautiful young people beginning a life together who were killed when leaving an Israeli, a Jewish peace event, an event about trying to bring about peace, bridge the gap, and they were killed by a anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, far-left radical lunatic, as far as I can tell. And this is, of all the things we would label political terrorism, this is political terrorism. So
I think both parties need to confront hate in all its forms, right? There's an opportunity, like through education, through justice, for this illegal migrant that came here and did this, as we pursue this and put him to court and through our system, that we can follow through with this. But I think it's an opportunity now that Trump has campaigned and won on immigration. People do all agree with all the polls from last year that a lot of people didn't think that the Biden administration handled it well. But now it's the ball's in his court. He's been the president. We can't always look back at Biden every time. It's time to move forward and figure out what the plan is to avoid instances like this. People haven't agreed with the strategy behind it because it seemed a little chaotic. But people do agree that we need a reform for immigration. And so I think that's part of the conversation and part of the change that he promised to bring forward. So we'll just see what happens.
Let me just say this, though, and this isn't aimed at you or anything because you're a perfectly reasonable person, but I think something of a double standard in media coverage about these kinds of things. Whereas, like, let's say this was some pro-Trump, MAGA, fringe, QAnon, old white guy who's got bombs in his van and is going to try to kill Anderson Cooper or Hillary Clinton or someone in the media, some liberals. The media will act in a way that blames Trump explicitly, blames Tucker Carlson, blames Fox News, and calls on Trump to holds him ideologically, emotionally, psychologically responsible for the insanity of this person. When it's the other way, when it's this is a perpetrator of a clear, left pro-Palestinian background, guilty of a terrorist attack against pro-Israel people, is the media going to, litigate this in the same way? Call on more Democratic leaders or left leaders to Bernie Sanders and AOC, et cetera, to condemn these kinds of people? I don't know that takes place. Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I do, and I know we have to get to the next segment, but I do think that there is both sides of the aisle that do believe that Palestinian people should have more freedom, and I think that there's still a conversation about that Jewish people should be treated better as well, and I don't think that that's like a left or right thing, which is why I wouldn't go to blaming the left for this.
Well, I agree with that. I don't think it should be a left or right thing, and I want peace in the region and an end to the conflict as well.
So was Joe Biden replaced by a clone? Well, President Trump seems to think so, I think. Let's see. Latest Truth Social gaffe coming up next. Stay with us.
is no Joe Biden. Executed in 2020, Biden clones, doubles, and robotic engineered soulless, mindless entities are what you see. Democrats don't know the difference. I'm reading from a post on Truth Social from a little-known user with fewer than 1,000 followers. He was retruthed, that's what we say on that social media site, by the President of the United States over the weekend, raising some questions. Does Trump believe that? Now, since he's taken office, Trump has suggested the former president wasn't fully in control of his administration. The auto pen was being handled by someone else. Some say on the right, it's a theory that's not far from what they've observed. Here's former SEAL Team 6 member Rob O'Neill.
I was looking at old pictures of the night of the bin Laden raid. That's a different guy. That's not the same Joe Biden that was sleeping in the White House. That's a different dude. I mean, yeah. And I'm going to be labeled crazy for saying that, but open your eyes.
So President Trump didn't give any clear reasoning for reposting, nor did he give any clear commentary on it. But some on the left are saying that a repost means a full endorsement from the president and it's grounds for removal. Here's Keith Olbermann, host of the Countdown podcast.
No, this was not simply the repost from some other lunatic on Truth Social. He changed the original post. This is a Trump post claiming this about Joe Biden. Is he, in fact, crazy enough to believe that Joe Biden was cloned, executed, and turned to a robot? Or is he just crazy enough to believe that somebody else will believe that? What's the difference? His mind has jumped the shark. Get out the men with the butterfly nets.
Keith, my bestie. Keith Olbermann has a real affection for this show and for me personally. He's called on me to be fired many times. I enjoy listening to him because he is so delightfully unhinged. I thought we settled this. Retweets are not endorsements, are they?
Come on, yeah. People put that at the top of their profile, but that's like a scapegoat. Like
I go down and I favorite when I favorite something, when I heart it. That's so I can save it, so I can find it later to engage with it.
It doesn't mean that you liked it.
No, it doesn't mean I like it. It means I got it, because then it goes in a separate tab where it shows your likes so that you can go and see
he didn't like
what
it.
you've done.
So why don't you teach the president how to like something? That's the problem. He literally uses social media like somebody's, we bring this up, I'm always saying grandpa, but I'm saying it because the way my grandmother uses Instagram is the same way. I don't even want to make this comparison. She's going to get mad at me. Yeah. Joe Biden is living rent-free in Trump's head. It's like ridiculous. I mean, the clone conversation is like something that people say about, celebrities. Like Jamie Foxx has come up, Avril Lavigne.
Avril Lavigne.
Yeah, like
I know the Avril Lavigne one. Avril
on.
Lavigne was replaced.
No, come on now, guys. Like it's ridiculous. But I want to be serious for a second because this is coming from an official account that people follow for news and information. And we know that followers believe things that Trump say because he's the president, rightfully so. They should believe and look into things. But they also act on it, right? Some of the things that Trump was saying have directly been connected to people storming the Capitol because they were interested in some of his views and felt like they should take it 10 steps further than he ever suggested them to take it, correct? Mm-hmm. And so that's why he has to be really careful as the president of the country on what he's sharing, what he's posting, what he's saying without having all the facts and information. And even though I know you call social media some other land for Trump where he may have his assistant or a young staff member controlling, he needs to control his public image. Social media is used for real things and real communication. We gather news facts and we confirm data from social media on X. If somebody confirms it in a political position, we take that as law and fact, and we research it as journalists. So how can he just share anything that he doesn't have any information about?
But how can you say that after the exposure of the Biden cognitive decline cover-up? All the legitimate sources of information were incurious or playing down or not looking into or just republishing the talking points of the White House saying that, no, everything's fine, he's totally fine. We now know that was false, they were lying, or they didn't know, or they looked the other way, or whatever it was. The idea that Joe Biden was out of it in his final years as president is more correct than, obviously I don't think he was replaced by a doppelganger or something like that. He just got really old. It's not a mystery. But the craziest thing you thought about the state Biden was in ended up being basically true. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, he's gone. He's succumbed to some kind of age-related decline." You were saying, "No, that's not true. That's a conspiracy theory. Cheap fake videos. Don't listen to them." All of that. Well, it was true.
Well, I think that we saw what has been reported. Are you done with the book now?
I'm almost done.
Okay, you're almost done with the book.
I got Jake Tapper's voice in my ear while I'm getting ready for the morning because I listen to most things on audiobooks.
So you know that we understand
In the gym
the
with
family
Jake
had
Memorial.
directly the most, I guess, responsibility in protecting and shielding Biden from even top Democrats. So it wasn't some huge thing that Democrats were just tweeting what Joe Biden's team were saying. They were trusting that their president was telling the truth. Now, his family protected him in a way
Oopsies.
that wasn't correct. But I mean, the same thing for the president. This feels a little bit unhinged. We talk about, what's not appropriate and what's a cognitive decline. Well, tweeting out random conspiracy theories is starting to go down that path of like, are you fit to lead? That could open up that conversation. Like, we need to make sure that we're at least telling the truth.
I don't know
correct?
how we can say that
He shouldn't even
Trump
have
is
time
not
for
fit
this.
to lead when Biden really wasn't fit to lead, and nobody wanted to invoke that
What's
conversation.
better, somebody
I can't
who's
believe he
getting
continued-
extremely old and can't lead, or somebody who's unhinged and sending out conspiracy theories and can't lead?
I didn't have any confidence. Between Biden and Trump, you can't tell me in December of last year that if there's a call that comes in the middle of the night from Zelensky or from Taiwan or from Netanyahu or Iran wants a deal, they got to talk right now. Tensions are big between Israel and Iran. Emergency 3 a.m. phone call. You wanted Biden taking that call instead of Trump? No way, no how. And it has nothing to do with their ideologies or what I agree with them or not. There's no way I would be confident.
Some people
in
felt that
taking
Biden
call over
was a
Trump.
safer option when Trump.
Not
Trump
for the
might
3 a.m. call.
but
Not
Trump-
for the 3 a.m.
Yeah,
call.
at 3 a.m. Trump might press the right
Biden
button
would
because
know-
he's a knee-jerk reactionist.
Biden would know who he's talking to.
Okay, well, but both are not great for me. I
Wow.
want somebody young and sprightly and excited to lead with confidence.
Well, I didn't vote for either of them,
Incline.
but-
Okay, next up on Rising, an interview with Elon Musk got a bit awkward after the interviewer asked him about certain Trump administration policies.
CBS Sunday Morning's recent interview with tech titan Elon Musk got a bit awkward.
Journalist David Pogue asked Musk if tariffs were affecting his business. Musk gave him a short answer. Then this happened.
Wondering what your thought is on the ban on foreign students, the proposal. I mean, you were one of those kids, right?
Yeah, I think we want to stick to, the subject of the day, which is like spaceships, as opposed to, presidential policy.
Oh, okay. I was told anything's good, but
No.
Musk followed that up with he said that blaming Doge for everything was going to be unfair. The idea that Doge was going to stop people from getting their Social Security check, according to Musk, was just not true.
Eventually, Musk did talk a little bit about the administration without Pogue asking about it. Take a look.
I agree with much of what the administration does, but we have differences of opinion. It's difficult for me to bring that up in an interview because then it creates a bone of contention. So then I'm a little stuck in a bind where I'm like, well, I don't want to, speak out against the administration, but I don't want to. I also don't want to take responsibility for everything the administration is doing.
Musk's last day at the White House was last week, since his time limit on being a special government employee has expired. Just from like a journalistic standpoint, I don't know. Your people have to set up an interview then along the lines that you want to discuss. Like
No. I actually 100,000% disagree with that. So when you go interview with a journalist, we're not just only talking about your spaceships. If there's pertinent news at the top of the day that people have been talking about endlessly, there's no way a real journalist is going to avoid that question. Or they might say no to the interview if it's completely off the table and you won't do it, or you'll storm off if they ask the question.
Well, right. Well, you're supposed to say, I'm willing to talk to you about this. And the journalist say, when you're setting up the interview, well, this is what we want to talk about. You make some agreement over what you're going to talk about and what's going to be covered. And then, if you go back on that. Now, it sounds like the journalist was saying he didn't go back on that. He said, your people said you'd be willing to talk about whatever. And Elon Musk is saying, I just want to talk about spaceships. So that's a failure of setting up the interview.
I thought it was interesting. He said what, quote, was starting to happen was a bit unfair. He also said, quote, becoming the whipping boy for everything is what Doge was doing, right? When you brought that up when you were reading the script. I think that he has a point there. I think that some Republicans look at Musk as this needed disruptor who could do the dirty work, right? He could slash departments. He could fire bureaucrats. He could take all the political heat, and he doesn't have to worry about midterms or the next election season. He just can go back to the private sector. But I know now that his exit is leaving a huge void for Republicans, because who's the scapegoat now? And who's going to get this $36 trillion debt down? He was actually trying to, and now we're back to Congress arguing about a big, beautiful bill that may or may not pass. And I think that they had an easy couple months to blame everything on Doge and Elon Musk, and now it has to go back to the party at hand that is in charge of actually passing these laws and how they affect people.
I think it's interesting that it's clear Elon Musk does not agree with some of the administration's policies on immigration, on tariffs. I mean, it's not a secret. Even when he was still part of Doge, he spoke up against tariffs. He tweeted about why he didn't like them. He called the main advocate for tariffs within the administration, Peter Navarro, the R word.
Got into screaming matches, we know.
He does not want tariffs. He convinced Trump on the H-1B visa fight to be for bringing in more high-skilled immigrants, primarily from India, for that class of immigrants. He's the leader he's an important tech leader. The tech sector needs skilled immigrants to be able to come to the U.S. I don't think he wants, he doesn't want the kind of brain drain that would occur of just like sending everyone who's enrolled at Harvard back to China or wherever else. That's not good for his businesses. That's not good for tech, and ultimately would not be good for the U.S. economy. So, I am on the Elon Musk side of most of these disputes within Trump world. So for my own thinking, I am actually not happy that he's going to have less influence over policy. To my mind, has the right ideas for how to make America globally, ensure America remains globally competitive and becomes the leader of the world for the next century. But there are other people in the MAGA contingent who want a lot less immigration, who don't care if tariffs wreck the economy, because they want to restructure the economy to do manufacturing here, to protect labor jobs, have more jobs for the working class. That's their highest priority. The highest priority of the Musk tech faction is to accelerate GDP growth and AI growth and have these sectors really dominate Earth and get us to Mars. And that's my goal. And maybe Elon Musk can help work toward that goal from outside government. I think that's where he is actually most effective. The government is almost a distraction, trying to find like little small ball peanuts to cut from the budget, when what's really going to make lives better for Americans is the technological innovation his companies unleash. So
I'm open to peeling back the layers here. I think that in recent commentary, he says, I won't be donating as much to political campaigns. In recent months, we've seen Tesla lose a lot of money. We've seen him say he's stepping aside before his actual date to step aside, which was last week, came up, that he kind of stepped back earlier than that. And so I think there's some writing on the wall that there may be a bit of a rift or a disconnect. I think DOGE was a headache for a lot of people in Congress because it caused a lot of distraction, big promises. But even when Marjorie Taylor Greene said she wanted to start the conversation about codifying some of the things that were brought up by DOGE, we heard crickets.
Yeah,
even the Republicans don't even have anything else to say about it.
And they were the only ones. It was very telling.
And we've seen Elon Musk come in strong, saying, I want to cut $2 trillion from the debt. Then he brought it down to $1 trillion, and then he's leaving saying it's $150 billion, which people are still, critics still say that that number hasn't been fully fleshed out. And so I think, you know, there are good things about DOGE and what the idea was. Americans did want more transparency. They voted for that in this election season. They want more spending accountability. But at the end of the day, it was erratic. It felt a bit unserious, like they were just doing things that they know that couldn't stick forever because they weren't going through the right channels. And a lot of people's livelihoods were affected by Elon Musk's decision. So there's a bit of, I think, animosity there when he's walking away, wondering what this is all for. Days after he leaves, there may be a bill passed that now increases our deficit by everything that he tried to get rid of.
It's pretty sad.
Yeah, he's going to, I don't think that this was a good working relationship for somebody who has successful working business relationships.
You know, he is far from the first person to become heavily involved in Republican political campaigning, giving money, hoping to get some policy direction he wants, and then realizing or deciding that it was not worth the effort and the money. This has been a frequent occurrence in Republican politics. Long time ago, back in 2010-ish area, the Koch brothers became very involved in, they'd been involved for years, but they became really excited about the trajectory of the Republican Party at the time, the Tea Party movement. It was all about limiting government, cutting government spending, reducing taxes, and then they got really involved. They spent a lot of money. Their names went from no one had ever heard of them to really punching bags in the media. They were exhaustively scrutinized. They spent tons of money to elect Republicans in 2010, 2012, etc. Their view, not that I've talked to them about it or something, although I've, for full disclosure, I've been in programs in the past that have certainly received money from the Kochs. I'm, ideologically very disposed to them, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But I think they decided, you know what, we gave tons and tons of money to Republicans. They didn't cut government at all. That's all we wanted was less government intervention in the economy, on foreign affairs. We didn't get any of that, so why bother? Peter Thiel gave tons of money to Trump in 2016. He sat out 2020 because, what was even the good of it? And
you can't buy your way through checks and balances. That's the problem. You can't buy your way through.
But the left and liberals and
progressives
they're always screaming about how bought and paid for the politicians are. Like, the people buying and paying for them don't feel that way. They feel like it's not worth it. They don't get anything they want. Maybe they get it on Democratic sides. On Republican sides, they don't get it.
Well, Elon got access to some really high-level meetings where they screamed at and berated people, like the South African
Maybe
president.
You can buy influence if you're trying to get specific industry perks or something, but if you're trying to get a general cut to what the government does, you can't buy influence, which is very, very sad for me. Coming up, let's hear why conservatives are blasting Michelle Obama's comments on pregnancy as beyond evil. beyond evil. Those are the words conservatives are using to blast Michelle Obama's recent comments on women giving birth. The former First Lady made the comments on her podcast, IMO, and has the MAGA world erupting with rage. Let's watch.
Women's reproductive health is about our life. It's about this whole complicated reproductive system that does, the least of what it does is produce life.
Obama was discussing how disconnected male lawmakers and religious leaders are from women's experiences producing life. And she had some unlikely people coming to her defense on social media. Heritage Foundation Reproductive Technology Associate Emma Waters says, quote, "For too long, we've debated sex versus abstinence-only education while neglecting to teach women how their own bodies work. Generations grow up not knowing how to chart cycles, track ovulation, or understand their natural fertility. We must do better for women and men's holistic health."
Others slammed Obama. MAGA commentator Vince Langman said, "This monster is beyond evil." And author Danielle D'Souza Gill writes, "Motherhood is the most beautiful, powerful gift God gave women. Creating life isn't some side effect, it's a miracle. Don't let the left cheapen it." Go ahead.
Well, let me be clear. I'm a mom, and so giving birth was one of the most transformative experiences of my life, right? It changed me in all the best ways. I wouldn't personally say that it was the least important of all my reproductive things, so I understand why people are upset there, but I don't want to miss the bigger message of what Michelle Obama was actually saying. She's simply asking us to broaden the conversation around women's reproductive health and make sure that it's not only male and religious leaders in the room having the conversation. She's saying that women are more than baby-making machines and that we have a lot more to us to reproductive health that's been neglected for so long. She's saying that if we don't protect women before the pregnancy, through the pregnancy, and after the pregnancy, then we're going to have issues endlessly. Everyone's going to suffer in our world. And she's also probably looking at Republicans and saying, you know, you're fighting to incentivize women to keep babies, to pay women to have more babies. This is what we heard Trump float past recently. And that's great, but you have to support them through the whole process and really understand that you cannot cut family paid leave. You cannot cut access to Medicaid and WIC. You cannot cut affordable child care. These are all things that Republicans simultaneously have on the chopping block, but then also want to say, have more babies. We'll support you through the actual pregnancy, and that's it. And she's saying we have so much more than that, so much more to our reproductive system. So I believe that the point might have got lost in like picking apart one or two words. And while I said, yeah, I don't think that it's the least important thing, that's up to you to determine. I don't think that women that can't have children or choose not to have children are any less of women with important reproductive systems. And that's what I think Michelle Obama was getting at.
Yeah, I believe choice is the essence of liberty, about, you know, what you do and how you live your life. So I think, though, that the right perceives liberals, cultural liberals, social liberals, as having downplayed the importance, the significance of having children, and motherhood and parenthood being not the only or not the most important for everyone, but a very valid option for a lot of women, that a lot of women will be most happy in that role. That's not everyone. Everyone is different. Mm-hmm. Different things make different people happy, and it's honestly none of my business. Doesn't matter to me what makes you or you happy. But the standpoint of conservatives is that liberals have downplayed that, not saying that it's not about saying they're all equal choices, but saying being a working woman or a career woman or driven by other things is more important than being a mother. That is the perception among conservatives. I don't know if that's always fair, but when Michelle Obama says things like that, it plays into that perception.
And I think the perception from the other side for Democrats is that, you know, reproductive health is about more than just pregnancy. And really, we lack education in that area across the board. So, you know, we don't talk about fertility as much or menstrual health. We always talk about having babies. And the conservatives always say that we're not emphasizing that enough. But like you said, where's the rest of the conversation around menopause care or around actual, ovulation, all the different things that women should know more about? I think we also need to talk about the fact that the U.S. has some of the highest maternal maternal mortality rates of wealthy countries. And so these are real issues that we have at hand. I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, one of the first things that came to my mind was Serena Williams' story. She is one of the richest, wealthy athletes that I've been following my whole life, and she had issues delivering a baby because she wasn't listened to about what kind of pain she was in, and that's an experience that happens to Black women more often and leads to maternal mortality. I've written long pieces on it for magazines about this. It's real fact and reporting. And so I think that Michelle Obama is just saying, let's make sure that women are educated in full, so when they're making these decisions, they feel protected and confident in the before baby decision, the having a baby decision, and everything that comes after it. And I think that that is something that's been missing from the wider conversation.
I agree. I don't have any problem with that at all. I think it might be helpful, though, for more people, women and men, because men, fathers have a role to play here, too, obviously, hear that having kids can, and I'm not speaking from personal experience, I don't have kids, but that having kids can be a life-fulfilling and uplifting and wonderful choice that makes you happy and isn't about like sacrificing your identity or yourself. It's fun and great and happy, and you should feel confident to do it, and that having more affirming messages of parenthood for women and men might be a good thing in our time where, fewer and fewer people are choosing to make that choice right away. People are not having as many kids. I mean, just a couple generations ago, it was like 5 or 10 kids per couple.
Right.
Now it's like 1 or 2 or 0, which is going to have downstream effects. We're leaving it to Nick Cannon and Elon Musk to repopulate the Earth.
I think the bigger thing is that we need to support women's reproductive decisions and not just only regulate them. That's we're talking about regulating them far too often more than supporting them, and that's what Michelle Obama is asking for. Coming up, rapper 50 Cent has a strong message for President Trump about Diddy. We'll discuss next. Cent wants to give President Trump his 2 cents. He wants Diddy to stay in jail. He says he's going to contact Trump to dissuade him from considering a pardon for Sean Diddy Combs. The embattled rapper and producer is currently on trial for federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Trump recently commented on a possible Diddy pardon. Let's watch.
Our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So it's not a popularity contest. So, I don't know, I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
50 Cent slammed Diddy last week on Instagram. He's alleging Diddy has said some really bad things about Trump. He also was trolling Diddy on X, writing, "Oh my goodness, itty bitty Diddy wants me dead. I have to lay low. I think I'm going to hide out at the playoff game tonight, LOL.
It all comes after the former CEO of Death Row Records, Suge Knight, suggested earlier this week that Diddy would receive a pardon if he's convicted.
Okay, so first of all, I don't think there was anything wrong with what Trump said there. He said, well, of course I'll look at any situation. Trump never says no comment. He never says I'm not addressing what you're talking about. If you say, Mr. Trump, what if aliens attack? He'll give you his, would you rule out using nuclear weapons against the Saturnanians if they attacked us? Trump's going to say, no, I wouldn't rule it out. He doesn't do no comment. So the fact that he said he would look at the Diddy situation does not mean he would pardon Diddy. And then he even said he would pardon any person if he thought they were treated unfairly, regardless
Untrue. I don't believe that, but okay.
Well, you don't have to believe it, but that's what he said.
That's what he said.
So I don't think
that everything Trump says is not exactly as it goes.
Well,
but
I don't have any problem with what he said. Now, okay, I am going to express, however, a hot take on the Diddy trial itself.
Okay.
Now that I have paid closer attention to it in the last couple weeks. My hot take is I don't think they are proving he is guilty of sex trafficking whatsoever. What he is guilty of is assault. He assaulted that woman. We saw the video footage of him attack her, of kicking her. He is absolutely guilty of assault, and if he had been charged with assault, I would have said, please convict him. But he was not charged with assault. My understanding is that's because the statute of limitations made that not something they could prosecute. So now they've creatively come up with this confusing, confounding sex trafficking charge that I don't think they are successfully proving at all. So I start to wonder, what is the point of this trial? He did an awful, brutal, violent thing to this woman. He should have been charged with assault. He's paid her, and that's what he did in the past. They're not proving, to my mind, that he's guilty of sex trafficking.
So,
what do you think?
Well, this whole conversation is not shocking to me. It's strategy on the part of Diddy's team. So back in March, I was on iHeart doing a show, and I told Angela Yee, who I was co-hosting with, that I spoke to somebody who's close to the Diddy trial that told me off the record that Diddy's team was already having preemptive early conversations. If this doesn't go the way that they want it to, would there be a pardon on the table and what that looks like? But I also know Trump doesn't hand out favors for free. So it makes me wonder why somebody who's criticizing him, he doesn't like a critic. That's a real statement. He does not like a critic. I don't think he hands out without some kind of loyalty behind it. He just handed it out to the Chrisleys from Chrisley Knows Best reality show. But what did their daughter do? She campaigned for him throughout the entire campaign season last year, basically asking him to please give her parents a pardon, but also showing up for him and rallying probably a young woman vote, which she is a young woman. So I don't know, some potential motivations on what Trump has the stake in for pardoning Diddy could be just looking at the black community that, Diddy was so close to for so many years. He's so close to everybody in hip hop and culture. He has all these brands, but just chipping away at that black male vote that he was touting throughout that campaign season and bringing it back to the Republican side. But I don't know that this is a good issue to fall your hat on to try to connect with black males. But I also think this could be a transactional deal. People say that Trump possibly could be having conversations about what he needs from you, quid pro quo, in order to pardon you, which is also shouldn't be acceptable for our president. So either one of those both look like something that you wouldn't want a president to step into. But otherwise, what would be the benefit of Trump pardoning somebody who has all these egregious claims against them?
I think I'm going to end up being the more woke one of the two of us in this conversation, but maybe would black men not appreciate a president saying that this is an unfair prosecution against someone for something he didn't do? Again, I'm not saying Diddy is innocent. I think he absolutely assaulted this woman and should have been charged for that. But I don't love that the criminal justice system, even if technically they can't get you on the thing you actually did, find some creative workaround where you get charged with perjury or conspiracy or obstruction or some procedural thing different from what you actually did. Because if they really try, if they really marshal all the resources of law enforcement and criminal justice against you, they can always get you for something. That's what Trump has found out. That's why he thinks the system is weaponized. And frankly, that has been something that progressives have said on behalf of black people and black men in particular for years and years and years, that the system is weaponized and is unfair, and they find a way to screw you.
But Trump
and
is not going in the weeds. And
I don't
trying to
know.
protect,
It's kind of what it
Trump
looks
is not
like.
going in the weeds and trying to protect all these black men jailed for petty reasons. He literally is trying to get influence and power.
I mean, the First Step Act.
He's trying to associate with Diddy because Diddy has this. He's famous enough that he's useful for Trump in some way. And so we'll see what way that looks like. But I don't think that Trump is going to go on a tirade just finding out which other black men he could try to actually fight for criminal justice reform. So this just feels very like an intentional relationship trying to help Diddy, which to each their own. But our president just laying his hat on that is just.
That does it for us today on Rising Live. Look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way today. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. See you back here tomorrow.